think that we need that mic.
Thank you, Natalie, all the team. Thank you very much. We're really happy to be here.
Yes.
Yes.
We will share this microphone, I think.
Yeah. And maybe, we can just...
Yes, we wanted to start sharing with you some sounds that we have been producing here in the Radio Art Residency. So first, we can listen for some minutes.
For some other from birds, little pigeons also are welcome. You can share your voices with us. Please leave your messages in our social media. For some advertisements.
How do you manage now? Do you think that social media it's a real way to relate with people? What do you see when you see yourself in the mirror? Who Who are you?
Well,
So, those are a few of the things we were working on. Maybe this past 3 months, maybe we are going to present a little bit of the context, kind of.
okay.
Our first title and start point was the adapted to air subject. We call this collective vocalities for a future sonic forest. So we were thinking in a way, now we are going to maybe expand a little bit, but we were thinking first in, well, everything you hear, it's a kind of a voice. It's a voice thing from different perspectives. So we are trying to think as vocalists, maybe what kind of structures, technical, political, aesthetical also resides in the process of voicing. So,
If you pass the...
yeah.
When we first came here, we had this little agenda that was working with non-normative vocalic production based on animal-machine cooperation. And that was our starting point, but then, well, we have been working since April here, and some things have developed a little, and now we are going to continue.
Yeah, also thinking for us was very important the radio frame, because it kind of helped us in a way to have this double perspective, in a sense having a really stratified image of how communication and voice and people get together through people getting together through technology should be like, but also a very historical and important aspect in technical imagination, from avant-garde radio and also several experiments and artistic radio production. So those two aspects were really important to us.
And I think that third aspect, that is the radio is there are like voices inhabiting in the air, so we kind of work with that air that we were talking about, that is between the bodies, but I think that we build like a fictional power from there, no, from these voices that are there trapped, and they cohabit with the real radio, but we also build this installation that you are going to see tomorrow.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
So this is also kind of the main practices we focused on working here. First, a thing we work on, which we call trans-synthetic voices. We will maybe talk a little bit about that. But also expanded listening, and also different models for speech synthesis, voice processing, animal voice sound modeling also, but also a few singing techniques for maybe creating animalistic or robotic voice structures.
Yeah. And that vocal memory is something that we started to research here, I think, no?
Yeah. So those were maybe a few questions we were trying to have to lead this process. First, what vocal creatures can we embody in an animal-machine cooperation? Cooperation now, I mean, not in a It sounds romantic. We are not aiming for that, so maybe we'll change that later. In a way, it's also cooperation in a sense of trying to develop a perspective that goes beyond the common structures we can think of while voicing in between animal, machine, and human.
And we use these questions just to build this speculative broadcast that you just heard before.
It's a part of it.
It's a part of it. There are many things around. I think that.
Yeah. So in a sense, in that, with these ideas and problems in mind, we were trying to understand the vocal, first of all, beyond, or at least hopefully trying to build performative practices that could go beyond the individual, as an individual person, and trying to understand the vocal as a territory, as a territorial practice, which involves, in a way, different performative practices, but also technological and language practices that perform in us while we voice and while we speak and while we try to communicate like now. So in a way, the idea of thinking the vocal as a territory help us in a way to focus on the performative practices and not so much into the metaphorical aspect of voice production.
Yeah, well, in the title of our project was this collective vocalities. So we started to think and to practice around this question that what is collective vocality? Is it possible to think in a voice that is collective while the voice is so connected to the construction of individuality? I mean, the concept of voice is deeply linked to the individual or the mankind as the projection of the, I don't know, the voluntad, how you say it?
The will.
The will, yes,
Voluntad.
exactly. A voice has to, like, clearly express the will of a person. So what room there is for collectiveness there? And so another nice question that we approached in this process was, can we think in a collectiveness that is not built from the individualities? How can we deal with that kind of collectiveness? Maybe if we shift into an operative perspective, we can start thinking in building like an apparatus that can produce a collective voice by itself, expanding the way that we produce more than, you know.
Yeah, so in a sense, the idea is that for a few practices we've been developed, and also because of, for us, it's musical history, but it goes beyond that, the perspective of the voice, as you say, it's completely linked with the image of an individual, and we start to think maybe how to create performative practices that can lead to vocal processes and understand vocal processes beyond our performative human practice, because the human voice, it's among a few species, but several species, it's very flexible and can create several different morphologies of sounds, but we are practicing every day. I think that's the word, maybe, or near that. So we are every day performing exercising a very specific way of voicing that has to be with, well, maybe it links with the architectural part or with how you were presenting both how these subjects are framed into our social practices. So how we voiced, it's completely dependent or intertwined or entangled in how we as a collective communicate and build relationships.
Yes, and also how to build power, no? Because using language in every minute is not something like so, yeah, it's not by chance, I think.
So in that sense, we were trying maybe to building. There is a kind of a language
Play.
Spanish language play there from vocal, because in Spanish you have the boca, you know, the mouth. So we try to think maybe if what happened if we can't relate directly, or at least in our practices, try to link directly the voicing practice into a very specific, localized and materialistic mouth production, which has not the subjectivity as the first pillar for constructing the voice, but a performative practice that could be constructed not only by humans, but for every being that can voice, which could be also every machine that can voice, and how we can work into those relationships to create different acoustic images or fictional narrations and also fictional powers. Why not? That's the
phrase. Yes.
Slides. Okay.
Okay. No, but that was important because
okay.
It's not only about the mouth, that we are thinking about the mouth as the center of this construction of new beings or creatures or whatever, but also is the relationships and the network, that the mouth is in the center or the core of this, but also the air around our cavities, the mouth, the teeth, the tongue, but also the amplification system, the space, the architecture that we were talking about, the urban spaces, I don't know.
Yeah, in that sense, the voice, we want to think as the voice, not as something that is natural, but something that that works as a performative practice in a complex system. So for us, it will be very, very important to think part of the vocal, to think as part of the vocal apparatus, this microphone, the amplification system, how sound is projecting into space, how are we using this instrument to build a voice that is, of course, not my voice. It's something completely different.
Yes, there is this other question that arises in we get another workshop. Tomorrow we have a workshop, but we have another in the past. And one of the questions that we were working there was, where is a voice built? No, so all these influences at the network of relationships was like emerging. Also, yeah, I don't know. I can continue.
Also.
Also.
3 months in Germany. Also.
Sorry.
Vocal performance. So there is a perspective maybe we would like to share, which has to do with vocal memory.
Yes.
You think it's okay?
Yes, I think that is the core of our practice now.
Yeah, it is. So
as humans, but also as artists.
So maybe this, I'm going to quote a little text we have like a few months ago, but it has to do with mimicry as a central practice of voice performance, and also trying to think about these vocal commons, these vocal grounds, this vocal territoriality, trying to think also in a mnemotechnical way. So first, we are going to quote. It's a very important study, actually, which is Gisela Kaplan's study. It's from 1999, and there she mentions two specific cases of birds that sound, that has a vocal performance, and that vocal performance, which is very common, we were talking about it, I don't remember when, a few days ago, and we were also thinking on that article, and in this article, what she is trying to describe, it's a way of identifying true mimicry in birds. How can you define true mimicry in birds? Scientifically, how can you say when a bird is mimicking another bird? So in this true mimicry structure, she builds 4 special conditions to label the practice as a practice of true mimicry. And those are, first, a special sound pattern that was atypical to the bird's normal song structure should exist. Second, that pattern had to be repeated and reappear in the song repertoire. Third, by repeating the same structure, there had to be a break with the species-specific song. And fourth, the atypical sound pattern had to be identifiable as a species-specific pattern from the vocalizations of another species. Under all these conditions, 15 distinct and recognizable types of bird imitations were recorded. Those imitations were involved horses, dog barks, cat meows, sirens, cracking doors, car horns, chainsaw, and human voices. Those are from specifically lyrebird and the magpie, 2 specific Australian birds. So many birds were identified in the vocalizations. He say which birds are, almost 7, 8. A few of those birds are birds that imitate another bird. And then one of the main theses of the study regarding acoustic mimicry points out to the production of territoriality. This is on the paper. It's the thesis of the paper. The size of the birds, the size of the body of the birds, the repertoire and the social organization, she says, are often interrelated. A bird with a complex social organization, such as those studied, may require a map of its territory to be recorded not only visually, but also orally. Orally, sorry. So she says the deliberate nature of the practice of certain types of mimicry suggests that the type of mimicry is learned and practiced intentionally. Specific type of memory, he says, is established. Lyrebirds' interpretations of imitated sounds in specific sequences make each type of mimicry seem like a collector's item. Another important element regarding the mimetic territorial memory process is that when the magpie bird hears a duet of another species, it imitates it without distinguishing between individualities. These are not isolated cases.
We have about 5 more minutes.
We have 4, okay. It's almost the last. So,
To sing.
yeah. These are not isolated cases. Australia has a wide variety of highly developed examples of mimicking birds, and studies are mentioned that locate multiple species around the world. So, the idea is that these vocal performativities traced by these birds, these are our words, not Kaplan's. The vocal performativities traced by these birds manage to articulate memory and the present, multiplicity and the collective social, as well as identity and mimesis in ways very different from what we are used to. Hence, the complex scaffolding of classification is generated by their practice. Being able to consider these technosocial and memo-territorial songs could help us out to put into practice structural synthesis of vocalities that can trace plans on the axis of techniques, nature, and social organization. Songs and fictions of speech and vocalities that do not reconstruct the morphologies of teleological genesis, of origin, of causes and consequences, of original and copies, but that can open themselves to consider an interstitial production of multiple origins, in which the temporal cardinality is not unidirectional and progressive, but non-linear and multiple. A song understood and practiced as the memory of a territorial techno-performativity.
Perfect. It was long, but you.
Sorry, but
Yes.
yeah. So we were thinking maybe in
Sharing with you some practices.
yeah.
Yes, because with all this in mind, we started to imitate the magpie imitating. So we brought together a bunch of sounds and noises from
that we
our,
can share.
Yeah,
Okay.
from our around, and we can
Yeah.
share with you
Okay.
in only 2 minutes.
Or less. Or less.
No, no.